nothing gets me out of a bad mood like a great wrestling show. And Jeff and I were talking yesterday afternoon, and he knows that I was kind of in a dark place. I had a tough week. I got some kind of depressing news on top of that about 5 o'clock yesterday, our time. And he and I were chatting, and then 7 o'clock comes around, and GCW Fight Club comes on. And it was already going to be a great show. I mean, I talked about it last week, so it hasn't aired yet. But I mean, we talked about like Gage versus Mox, and Alex Kane versus Ninja Mac, excuse me, and Effie defending the television championship against Matt Cardona. It was already going to be a great show. But 5 minutes in, we get a big surprise. Leo Rush comes out. And later on in the show, another surprise. Thunder Rosa comes out. And then we get one of my favorite tag teams ever, the Briscoes, come out on the show. And just there's, tons of great matches with some great surprises. Made this, to me, a top 3 or 4 pay-per-view of the year. So I was very excited about last night's show. It made me very happy. And, some of that could just be, the way that it brought me from down to very, very high. So, welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Zanman Shane Sabunia, along with my good buddy, the Honorable Jeff.
Hello. 2 things you mentioned there that I want to touch on.
Yeah.
First of all, nothing gets me out of a bad mood more than Hangman Page sighting. And secondly, while I agree with you that when you mentioned that yesterday about it being a top 5 pay-per-view, I just watched the ending. I hadn't watched the beginning, so I was like, I mean, But then after I watched the beginning, and then I started thinking about it, exactly what pay-per-views this year would I personally put above this that I've seen? I think you would have to go, obviously, All In or All Out.
All
I mean, and then from that same weekend, I think 3 Cup Stuff. I think was on par, maybe a little better than this one. Outside of that, I can't remember another pay-per-view this year where every match was great. There was plenty of surprises. There was enough to keep you invested through the whole thing. I know we've watched some Ring of Honors. Unfortunately, NJPW puts on great shows, but they've got so many 10-man, 8-man tags in there that it kind of dulls it down a little bit. Honestly, can you think of 4 that you would put ahead of this?
Well, I was kind of debating because I thought Double or Nothing was a great show, and I thought that, remember there was that one Impact pay-per-view, was it Undeniable, that we both loved? But the thing with those 2 shows is the Undeniable show was not in front of a crowd at all.
No.
And Double or Nothing was only in front of wrestlers in the crowd. So and the energy that GCW fans bring to those shows. You and I had talked to you a little bit yesterday about how WWE is like watching a symphony, and AEW is like watching a rock and roll concert. But to me, GCW is like a punk rock concert, where people are moshing to the crowd. They're hyped for everything. Although I thought they were really subdued for that 6-man tag yesterday, which I didn't understand. But I mean, for the most part, they're really hot for everything going on there. They're bouncing around, and they're like, they're part of that atmosphere. So, and I think that brings a lot to the table for GCW the way it used to for ECW. Right. So overall, I would say no. This is probably my second favorite event of the year. And probably right behind All Out. And remember I was live in attendance for that Art of War Games match. I haven't had a chance to watch it back on TV to see how it worked, but you think 3 Cup Stuff was better, and you watched them both. So
yeah, I enjoyed 3 Cup, and 3 Cup Stuff to me is right about on this level. The only thing that was different that might have made Art of War Games a little bit better was the surprise of Mox.
Right.
Being there. But I thought overall match quality, 3 Cup Stuff was better. I did.
Art of War Games also kind of had a little bit of its sales taken out because what was supposed to be the semi-main event there, or the third main event, or maybe the semi-main event, the third from the top, ended up having to get canceled because Super Crazy couldn't make it in the country.
Right.
So that's where they kind of had a little bit of this lace cut off from under.
But I mean, I really enjoyed 3 Cup Stuff. This is this and that are this one and that one are very, very similar. It's hard for me to pick one over the other. All Out is by far the best pay-per-view this year.
Yeah.
I thought Double or Nothing was solid, but I thought it didn't have the feel that these other three had. It didn't have the big surprise type stuff that the other one had. I mean, hell, you had a great match between Inner Circle and Pinnacle. But outside of that, it just didn't have that feel like these other three did. So I would.
And even the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle, we talked about it at the time, was if Sammy hadn't dominated like the last 10 minutes of that match and been the absolute star of that match, a lot of that was kind of throwaway. It was forgetful,
right.
know. So
right.
it was nowhere near this Stadium Stampede of last
year. Right, exactly. And then also when you look at the fact that Ring of Honor really hasn't put on a solid show yet this year, not top to bottom solid. NJPW puts on some great second half shows, but their first half is always bogged down by those tag teams. Impact has had a couple of pretty decent ones, but I wouldn't say top to bottom was great. It just, and I haven't seen a single WWE one yet, so I can't even talk about that. But
for Impact, you and I did say for Undeniable that it may be the show of the year so far, back in April or May, whenever that aired.
Right.
So I mean, we did really love that show, but I think there's a difference when you come back and now you're seeing the crowds involved, and you're seeing the crowd. I mean, I was one of those ones that you and I have talked about this before. I'm like, I don't care how the crowd's reacting. I'm still going to enjoy what I enjoy. But now I realize, having the crowds back after 13 months of them not being around, 14 months, whatever it was, that the crowd is a character in the show, and it really does matter.
It's not so much the crowd. It's the way that the performers react to the crowd.
Yeah.
There is a different feel out of the performers when they're in front of a live crowd than when there's nobody there. That's where the biggest thing comes. I don't know if they're giving a little more. I don't know what the difference is, but there's just a different feel to the way that the performers, because I mean, we watched Impact, we watched AEW all through the pandemic, and there were some great performances. But even those guys that were giving us great performances, once they got crowds back, was next level.
Right.
So I think a lot of the reason why we're enjoying it more with the crowds, even though neither one of us really paid too much attention to the crowd, is because the performers are putting in much, much better performances because they're feeding off the energy of the crowd.
Right. And it's crazy because GCW is kind of come out of nowhere for us as being that we just are loving. Right? I mean I had heard about them. I mean, and I had seen a couple of their shows I bought like one of their packages for one of the WrestleMania weekends a couple of years ago. But I mean, really, I think they've really. I mean, clearly they've upped their game. They've upped their production values. They're bringing in top level stars now. I mean, love him or hate him, Matt Cardona, for years has been a top level star. Even if he wasn't pushed that way in WWE, the crowd reacted to him that way. The internet reacted to him that way. Fans reacted to him that way. The reign of Moxley, Thunder Rosa, who's top 5 women wrestlers in the world. You're talking about now Leo Rush, who is red hot right now. And the Briscoes showing up too.
Minoru Suzuki and
Suzuki.
Moxley, and even Joey Janela and Marco Stunt. And then you've got Tony Deppen, who wasn't on the show, which I was actually kind of disappointed about. And then Chris Dickinson too. You've got people who are stars in other promotions who are now showing up on their shows.
Absolutely. Yep. And Dickinson and Deppen got their start there. I mean, we got Jacob Fatu, who until a couple of days ago was the MLW World Champion, is showing up on their shows. So they have quite a convergence going on.
Yeah, I'm impressed with what I see, and I'm impressed with the people that are kind of their homegrown guys that I'd never heard of, like Effie. Effie is just a fantastic character, and he can actually go in the ring. which is,
Yep.
makes him even better. And then like Jimmy Lloyd, G Raver is another guy where I was like, how did I not know about this guy? I mean, we got our introduction to RSP through GCW. Jordan Oliver. Yeah, I first saw him on MLW, but I was never impressed with him, especially when he was wearing the orange jumpsuit. He just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But ever since seeing that match against him, that 2-hour Ironman match against Tony Deppen, every time I've seen Jordan Oliver, he keeps getting better. And I went from a guy who I couldn't handle watching his matches to a guy who I don't think can put on a bad match, period. I don't think I've seen a bad match, and that includes his match at was it Fight for, what was the name of the one on Friday night from Thursday night from MLW? Yeah, that match.
Fight. Well, that was Fight, but Jordan Oliver wasn't in that one.
Fight Lab, yeah.
He was in the night. He was on the MLW show the night before the Alpha.
Was he? I thought he was on that one against 5150.
No, Myron Reed defended the middleweight title on that show.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it was him and Myron Reed against 5150, and even that match, in MLW, all the stuff I've seen of him in GCW, this kid's got a good, bright future.
Even if he is young, dumb, and broke.
young, dumb, and broke. Even though he's got the probably the worst nickname ever, Big Breakfast.
I love that. No, I love it because it like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, that's perfect because it tells you like maybe you've bitten off more than you can chew.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I'm falling more and more in love with Jordan Oliver every time I see him. He is just and like I said, I don't think since we saw that match in January, February, that I've seen him put on a bad match. No matter where
the one on Fight Forever. Talking about that one.
Yeah. The 2-hour match with Tony Deppen.
Yeah, he's been sensational. And speaking of that, I texted you. You started watching like you just mentioned late, and I texted you. I just did a Joey Styles, and that was, I yelled, "Oh my God!" as soon as I saw him out cutter on
through the table,
and as Cogar through the table to the outside. That was just fucking fantastic.
Yeah, that was well done. And I've never, Marco Stunt's another guy where I've never really gotten him, and they don't use him on AEW matches. And when they do, it's shortly lived. And I felt like that match with him and Joey Janela was really well done against Chris Dickinson and Starboy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
He
played the spark plug hot tag to a T. Like that's what everyone should be looking at when they're looking at how to be a spark plug in a tag team match, is they should look at his performance.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I've never been a fan of Marco Stunt, and I saw him against Starboy Charlie a couple of months ago, and that was a really good match. Now in this one, yeah, he really was kind of the heart and soul of that match, and I was really impressed by everything he was doing, and I felt like when he hit that missile drop kick and landed right on his neck and couldn't move for a couple of minutes, I was like, oh shit, don't tell me.
Yeah.
And I think the announcer must have got the wind knocked out of him. That's kind of what it turned out to be because he certainly, the way he was going after that, he certainly didn't get a stinger or anything from it. So I was very happy to see he was able to get up and move after a few minutes.
I still think one of the best things I've ever seen in any match ever was Joey Janela dragging him by the hair over to the corner of the table.
Yeah,
I thought that was fantastic.
It was, but did you think for just a second there, like, should you really be doing that to guy that just landed on his neck?
Yeah, I was, because I seriously thought he got a stinger the way he laid there.
Right.
And then just crumbled when Charlie picked him up. But it was one of those things where I laughed out loud when I saw Joey Janela dragging him by the hair.
Yeah, it was great.
And I know you like Ninja Mac's performance, and I thought he did well, but I can't say enough about Alex Zane. That dude is just amazing. How the WWE couldn't make a star out of that guy just blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. I mean, I look at that guy and I'm like, that guy's got money written all over him. But he really has. He's got the character. He's got the personality. He's got He clearly can talk, and he's absolutely fantastic in the ring. And he does spots, but he does it at a smart time. Most of the time, he's just out there wrestling, and then he'll put a spot there where it belongs and needs to be. I mean, this guy really is a guy that I think should, easily could be a top level star in a major promotion. So
Well, and
I would,
time,
so I mean, as much as I'm happy that he's in GCW and has a shot at the ROH World Title, I would not be surprised if he's the guy that Tony snaps on.
the timing it takes to do that top rope shooting star knee press into the back of the neck is just insane to pull that off in a live match. And then some of the other stuff, like he's got the charisma, and AEW is the kind of place that they're okay with those goofy entrances, where with the Orange Cassidy hailing from wherever, weighing whatever, and Private Party weighing in at 600 ounces of cranberry vodka. He's got that kind of entrance too, where he's hailing from the nearest Taco Bell drive-through, weighing in at like 1,400 chimichangas or something like that. That kind of craziness also adds to his character. And I don't know any other. I mean, I guess ROH did it with the bouncers because they were always hailing from the bar.
True.
But he has star written all over him. I think Jordan Oliver has an amazingly bright future. I love what Matt Cardona's doing. Love him or hate him, I love the way he reacts and plays that heel so well with this crowd, and does everything he can to rub it in.
I don't know how you can hate the deathmatch. I just don't get it.
What's that?
I don't know how you can hate. Yeah, how you can hate the deathmatch king? But
he's a walking billboard.
He is. He's a walking billboard, and he's playing, like you said, he's playing that role so well, where he's kind of like the almost like oblivious to the fact that he has seen it, and he's really fun. I mean, even sitting in my living room, I'm just doing from the double finger setup,
Yeah, it's careful, you might get busted like Eli did with the double birds. Here, Eli Manning. He was they were doing on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, whatever. Eli and Peyton Manning are doing a ESPN2 broadcast of the game.
Okay.
And Eli was telling a story about a 9-year-old giving him the double birds, and he acted it out on live TV, and there was a lot of backlash about that.
Oh, ridiculous! It's 2021.
Right, and we're more retroverted in this cancel culture than they were in 1984. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Alex Zane, is a guy that I know that that you're not necessarily thrilled with the whole open challenge thing, but we just saw a great match between Sammy and Bobby Fish on there, and I know Sammy's like wrapped up right now with what they call that? What was the name of that team? Dan Lambert's team, whatever the hell that's called.
Top team, and Men of the Year.
Yeah, America Top Team. That's what it is.
And Men of the Year.
And they're part of America Top Team now. Yeah.
Oh, are they? Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Alexander, I think is a perfect guy that would to bring in, for one at least give him a tryout against Sammy on national TV would not be something I would frown at.
I love the idea of the open challenge. I think that's what saved John Cena's career, was the open challenge. I mean, he put on great matches, but his run with the U.S. Championship and his open challenge is what really brought people to and realize that, yeah, he might be stiff and awkward, but he's a hell of a good performer in the ring. That's not
what I meant. I meant you had expressed concerns last week about them bringing in people from the outside to do part of the open challenge.
My concern with it is, and I hate to bring up another Fish reference, but Bobby Fish coming in wasn't the kind of guy that I felt like was going to be an immediate impact, where I figured he's best as a tag team partner. He doesn't have a tag team partner. I didn't want to see him end up being another Scorpio Sky, where he comes in, he's got this high profile match, and then he ends up on Dark and Elevation floundering. There's my Fish reference. While he's waiting to find his spot with another tag team partner. That was my only concern about Bobby Fish.
So you were afraid that if he didn't hook the audience, he was going to flounder.
Well, no, it wasn't even whether he hooked the audience or not. And people are going to tune into the program anyway. But I just felt like he was not that over the top Dante Martin even like character, where he was going to be able to come in, put on a great match, which I knew he could against Sammy. But then where does he go from there? In my eyes, he goes to Dark and Elevation and kind of works through things until he can net a tag team partner and then maybe swim upstream back to the actual program.
Yeah, and even though I really didn't expect him to make a big splash in the promotion, I was kind of surprised that on Rampage that they actually showed that they already have a Bobby Fish T-shirt available to buy on shopaew.com. I'm not sure how many people they're going to reel. I'm not sure how many people they're going to reel in to buy that, but it definitely is available for you to purchase right now.
Oh my God, how many Fish references did we get in that 535? Anyway, but no,
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't weigh it, but I would have took the skills.
I'm gonna throw it back now because it's underweight. But where the difference is, I love the open challenge. I love the fact that when Cody was doing it, we got Eddie Kingston, we got Ricky Starks, and we got people that were able to come in and make immediate impacts. I think Alex Zane is a guy who, even if he ended up on Dark for a little bit, he would still make a splash. And it wouldn't be long before he's in tag matches and doing stuff on the main roster and things like that, where I just feel like Bobby Fish is the kind of guy he doesn't really have that over the top personality. He's a hell of an in-ring performer, but he reminds me more of a Lance Storm than a Daniel Bryanson.
Brian Danielson.
Something like that. I don't know. I'll never figure that name out.
No, I get it. I mean, I think Fish really would be a better fit in Ring of Honor or MLW, where he signed to MLW now. But I mean, right. I think he has a better fit there than he is in AEW. And
to get a spotlight. I mean, and the fact that he's 44, it's not like he's a young guy. What I would love to see is let's just bring in Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy, team them up with Adam Cole, and we can have Adam Cole's faction against the Elite.
I have no idea where their contracts are. Just one more. I think just one more piece on GCW Fight Club. Other than guys, if you didn't buy it and watch it. It's awesome.
Right.
$15 on Fight TV. You can afford to skip like one meal at McDonald's and watch this thing. But I was going to say, I thought it was odd the way announcers in the crowd reacted to Moxley hitting the top rope, Death Rider, and getting the pin on Gage. It was like the announcers were like, "Wait, he won?" It was like he was always going to win, right? I mean, why are you shocked that Jon Moxley beats Nick Gage in the middle of the ring? It's all like, yes, Gage is the man, the king, the motherfucking god of this shit, right? But Jon Moxley still.
It's Jon Moxley.
And just like Omega, winning the Impact World Championship wasn't going to be a one-off. There's no way Jon Moxley winning the GCW World Championship was going to be a one-off. I mean, he's too high profile guy holding that championship, and he should be defending against more guys than just Gage. I mean, maybe Alice Colon, maybe G Raver. Something down the line. Coming up, and those two guys having a rematch at the announced Hammerstein Ballroom show. Would be big business for them. So I mean, I think that is important, and I would not be surprised. We mentioned Briscoe showing up. GC Second Gear Crew, after they won their 6-man. Mance was saying, "There's nobody out there that can step to us," and the Briscoe showed up. So.
Well,
So I would not be surprised if. Well, of course it was. So I would not be surprised if we see a short reign of the Briscoes as the tag champs there to give them another high profile, champions. So I think
how
they're, I think,
long has how long has how long have they held the titles, Manson, Matthew Just? It's been a long
since,
time.
no, like the middle of July.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought it was longer than that.
No, Jimmy Lloyd and G Raver won it in Mexico, and they lost it in their first defense against
Okay.
Manson Justice.
Yeah, and then I mean that match to like from the start with Nick Gage cutting off Moxley's ring announcement to hit him in the face with tubes was just from the start like holy shit, this is gonna be a great match. And then Mox,
because Mox is standing with his back to Gage the entire time,
right.
from Gage's entrance all the way through the end of Mox's entrance. So it's like, really going to turn your back on Nick Gage and not expect that to happen?
Right. Well, and then Mox being the first one to bring up the pizza cutter, I thought was great. I thought that was a great little bit. And
Yeah.
a negative was Mick Foley's comments after that Tony Khan should never allow this type of match to happen again to his contracted employees.
Oh, I didn't hear that part of it.
It was right before Nick Gage's little speech. I can't remember his word for word what it was, but it was about that. It was like Tony Khan needs to reevaluate. He needs to change to do something like this if they're not a contract with that company. And it was like, okay, Nick, that wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, they even talked of the match, which was perfect scene setting, like about how Khan can't be, Khan has to be holding his breath for this match, and so does Renee, right? Because Renee Paquette, his wife, he's got a 3 or 4 month baby at home, so
and it's funny because it's no different.
That's some good foreshadowing. I really don't like, Nick saying Tony should never let his 100 employees be in a match like this is, I understand the thought behind it, but I also think it's like, you kind of did the same shit when you were under contract with WCW.
Well, here's the thing. Mox has already had 3 matches like this with in AEW. He had the Kenny Omega exploding whatever sparkler match. He had the one against Kenny Omega, and then he had that lights out match against Joey Janela. He had the one against Kenny, and then the lights out match. Didn't he have another one too with Eddie Kingston? He had that one with Eddie Kingston too. So he's done this style of match now 3 times over the last 2 years in AEW.
Right. I mean, they didn't bring it up pizza cutter or light tubes and stuff, but yeah, I mean, they did have hardcore matches for sure.
Right. So and to me, the death match, the way that they are now, is basically just a hardcore match with light tubes. That's basically all it is.
Yep, light tubes and the glass beams. That's pretty much the only difference.
Looking at Moxley's back afterwards, though, I can understand why the glass is a whole lot worse than just barbed wire.
Right. I mean, there's 2 things that they do in pro wrestling now that you can't control, right? I mean, you can't control how fire is going to react, and you can't control how glass is going to react. Right. So, I mean, if you're sitting in in the first couple of rows at a GCW show, just be aware there might be glass flying at your house.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, that kind of brings it to around. Oh, and Shane Mercer throwing Yo-Ya into the 5th row was one of the best things I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it really set up a spot later on where Yo-Yo almost got a victory by getting out of it with the reverse with the Poison Rana. So I mean, yeah, that was actually it was kind of cool to have that power cleanser match in there, right? Where we have the big 6-man hardcore match,
Okay.
And then I thought we were letting right to the main event, but we actually, because it was getting close to 10 o'clock, but they actually had this power cleanser match between Mercer and Yoya first, and at first you thought, okay, it's gonna be like a 5-minute squash, and then it turned into like a real battle. So I really enjoyed that one too.
One other thing that I do want to comment on, and I know I'm guilty of this because I used to do it back in 2016 until I realized, have you ever seen a two-man Spanish Fly?
Yes,
I don't believe I ever have.
that's because you didn't watch the early days of TNA yet.
Early days of TNA?
The Spanish Fly was actually invented by the Spanish announce team, the SAT, and they were a tag team where they would do this. With their finishing move was the Spanish Fly. Nobody had ever done it before. At least there was a popularizer. They didn't invent it. So yeah.
And
So
they
then go ahead.
did it as a double team move.
Correct.
Okay, so that explains, because I remember back in like 14, 15 when I started watching wrestling again, all the announcers were referring to it as a one-man Spanish Fly.
Right.
And then I was doing it there for a while too. And then I realized I've never seen a two-man Spanish Fly, so why don't we just call it a Spanish Fly? And around that same time, I think all the announcers started doing that too. They just call it Spanish Fly now. But then
I think our boy Frankie Azaria was the first one that ever did it single.
Okay. All I know is I have noticed that with the GCW announcers that they always refer to it as a one-man Spanish Fly. And I'm like, I thought we were over that, but I didn't know that there was actually a two-man Spanish Fly. I had no clue.
Yeah, I guess the other, I guess it's something along those same lines as the sliced bread number 2. A lot of people just call it sliced bread now, which I think is dumb, because the whole point of sliced bread number 2 is it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And now it's the greatest thing since sliced bread number 2. But now if you're just going to call it sliced bread, you miss the entire point of the name of the move.
Of Alex Shelley's reasoning behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
if you want to call sliced bread number 2, if you want to shorten it, it's called sure and what.
So the one thing about GCW is they're gaining a lot of momentum. With a few changes, mainly being entrance music, and I think that this company could actually get a TV deal on, not like a TBS or USA, or definitely not a Fox. I don't think they need to clean up their wrestling, because even watching this show, there was really not much difference between this and an AEW show, where they only had the one table spot, and that was in Jordan Oliver and Atticus Cogar, and then the death match, which could have been a lights out match. But if you look at AEW TV, we had a death match recently, Gage and Jericho. We have that occasionally with the people going through tables and getting hit with chairs. It's not this last couple since 3 Cups Stuffed, and then Art of War Games, and now this last show that we just watched a couple weeks ago, and now this one. I don't see much difference between this and what we see on actual television. So I don't see why, even with their current way of doing things, yeah, they would have to change up the music, because I can't imagine that they would be able to pay all those copyrights, especially just Metallica alone for the 5 different songs they use. But I could definitely see this as something that is on regular TV.
Have you ever heard of the TV show Yellowstone?
Mm-hmm.
So that's on the Paramount, which used to be Spike TV, which used to be TNN right before that, right? But and TNN is where GCW was on. But my wife and I were watching one of the episodes of Yellowstone. We started watching that on Peacock, and there's actually a scene where a lady on there shows her tits and her ass both, and I'm like, really? You're doing this on regular cable TV now, not just on like HBO or Showtime? So I mean, I think if you see a spot like that, and so if you can see a spot like that, then it's not a big stretch to move to the kind of language they use at GCW, the kind of violence they do at GCW, right? So I mean,
Right.
I do think you're right. You're kind of you're right along the line. There is, the one thing I would say about that though is I would not want GCW to be a low energy product like we see in the Impact Zone, right? Where the crowd, maybe for that first couple of tapings, they're red hot, but then after that they're kind of like cool or cooled down. And I wouldn't want to have the same crowd at every show really for them. So it would depend on the budget for that. Like if they could do like the original TNA plan where they would like record, do a live show and then record a show and then move on, or the way Raw used to be, and Raw used to do the same thing. I would enjoy that, but I would not want. I guess what I'm saying is I want them to keep touring. Wouldn't want them to be stuck at, the showroom or.
Well, I mean, if they did like Ring of Honor used to do, I wouldn't want to see them do 4 tapings in one weekend, because that's where you have a pay-per-view and somebody shows up as a champion. They're like, oh, you'll see that happen in 2 weeks on TV. But if they did do something like, I think they could easily be a touring brand. I think they could put a 2-hour show out and do 2 recordings, or like you said, 1 live, 1 recorded. I think they have enough talent. I think they have enough stroke with other big names coming in. I think even their crowd, the way it is, would still work, especially during Nick Gage's entrance, as long as they keep it a small, intimate crowd, like max of 2,000. Once they start selling out, bigger stadiums are 5 and 6 and 7,000, 20,000, then maybe not. But I really think that this show could work on national television.
I guess the other caveat with that would be if they were on another national television broadcasting, network, would guys like Moxley and Janela and the Briscoes be allowed to be on there? Right? Because now you're talking about not just letting your talent perform at another company's weekly pay-per-view, but actually letting them be on another national broadcast station. So I mean, that's the other thing is would they allow that to happen? Who knows?
Well, they've been allowed to be on Access. They've been allowed to be, weren't they on? Because I know, they've been allowed to be on Access, and they're owned by Tony Khan. Their contracts are by Tony Khan, not by TBS.
No, I know that. That's not what I was saying. I was saying I was asking.
Moxley, Christian on Access with Impact.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think. I mean, as long as it's not Moxley showing up on every weekly broadcast, I don't see it being a huge deal. And it all depends on what channel picks them up. It could be that this could be a TNT type show. It's not that much different than what we see on AEW right now. But if they did like a Saturday night show with this, or even what channel has Ring of Honor?
Well, Ring of Honor is on the Sinclair broadcast, on the Sinclair stations.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I don't know. Did they ever start airing on FS1 or those? Because because didn't Ring of Honor, didn't Sinclair Broadcasting buy up all of the former Fox Sports stations?
No, they're still owned by Fox.
Okay.
This week when there's the Rampage, and we can get into this too, but SmackDown is doing an extra half hour of SmackDown this week. First 2 hours are on Fox, and then that last half hour is moving to Fox Sports 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see something briefly about that, but I read that and I just shook my head because I think FS1 is in maybe like half the households that Fox is in, right?
Right.
And probably or maybe in a quarter, like probably half the households that TNT and TBS are in. So I mean, it's I don't think, I mean, I saw it and I'm like, yeah, that's that's probably going to work for WWE fans, but I think pro wrestling fans are probably still going to be watching,
Right.
Rampage.
Well, and I mean, it's just more of the horrible wrestling community. Tony Khan said he's not basically he's not sweating it. He welcomes the opportunity to beat SmackDown on that half hour. And of course, the whole wrestling community is losing their minds, saying that that Tony Khan is starting a fight, and why do they have to keep dogging or making fun of WWE? It just blows my mind how people act like it's cell phone companies where you can't be a fan of both. Let's see, where is it?
We don't. There is actually Dynamite doesn't air until next Saturday.
Dynamite isn't. Rampage is on Friday. Okay, here, Tony Khan on October 8th. I saw you're doing a half-hour head-to-head with us. I can't wait to finally beat your main show head-to-head. It's been a long time coming. See you next Friday.
Yeah.
Is that really dogging him? Is that really poking the bear or whatever? What was the other one? He had another one where he said he wasn't sweating it. I don't remember, but
yeah, I guess we'll see how it does. I saw someone else said it's really a bad move by WWE because if they beat Rampage, they were supposed to beat Rampage. If they lose to Rampage, then it's a big story, which is really true, So,
but it's also ridiculous because you're asking people to turn the channel to continue watching it on another channel that's half the audience.
And which they may or may not have.
Yep. I mean, what's happening, what they're doing is a bad move because you're going to have fans that are invested and want to watch the last half hour and can't find it because they don't have access to FS1. It's a very, very bad decision by WWE to do it. And their whole reason to do it is to go head to head with Dynamite. It's not because they have anything special. It's just we're going to throw another half hour to go head to head.
Or are they doing a Hell in a Cell?
What's that?
Are they doing a Hell in a Cell for that last?
I don't remember what the last match is. I didn't even pay that close of attention. I just looked at it and saw that, if they're going to do an extra half hour, you need to keep it on Fox. You can't move it to a channel where half of your audience can't even access it.
Yeah, so they are. My point was that they actually are doing something special. They're doing Edge versus Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell for that last half hour.
Still, now you're going to get even more people pissed off because they're really going to want to watch the rest of that match, and they can't find it.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I think it's just a very, very bad decision by WWE. Very bad decision.
Yeah, and the thing is that the funny thing is that like Vince will tell you, oh, we have no competition. We're an entertainment company. They're a wrestling company, but yeah, they pulled this kind of bullshit. Or they put NXT on Wednesday nights to go, on USA to go head to head with AEW. Got their asses kicked head to run with their tail between their legs. They completely changed. Not only moved to Tuesday night, but they completely changed the format of NXT because they lost a fight that they started for no reason. I mean, AEW is just being AEW. They don't care what WWE is doing, but WWE clearly does care what AEW is doing.
Exactly. I mean, AEW, they just were basically welcome the competition. Let's go out there and let's see what we can do. Let's put on our best show and see how it works out. WWE is the one that's been bringing it since day one to compete with them. Since day one, they've brought, they're the ones that put, like you said, NXT on Wednesday nights to compete with Dynamite. They're the ones that are now doing this extra half hour to compete with Rampage. Because Rampage has been the number one sports show on cable for the last 6 weeks.
Rampage or Dynamite?
Rampage has too. Rampage has been pretty.
Well, Rampage has not done as well in the ratings as Dynamite, but it can't really be expected to do so, right? Because it's on a Friday night, and it's also at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So I mean, it's not like it's so yes, children would be available around to watch them, but AEW is aimed at children.
No,
So it's aimed at young adults who are going to be out, partying usually on Friday nights, right?
hanging with their friends, or
Yeah,
just like me, when I have my kid, it's me doing something with my kid, not sitting watching wrestling. When I don't have my kid, it's usually a bonfire or something like that. So I don't watch it live because I have other things to do on a Friday night.
right. Where I think I do think it's a weird move, but I also think it's weird that people are like, well, Rampage isn't doing as well as Dynamite in ratings. How could it possibly?
Right, exactly.
How could it possibly do as well? Even if it was a WWE show, right? And it had all their old big stars on it, like Steve Austin and John Cena and The Rock every single week. Eventually, maybe for a couple episodes it would do really well, but if eventually people would be like, well, it's wrestling on a Friday night, and maybe I'll catch it over the weekend after I DVR it.
Right. Why do you think SmackDown kept changing back to Thursday nights and Tuesday nights from Friday night?
Right.
They started on Thursday night, they went to Friday night. Once that contract was done, they were right back to Thursday nights. Then they tried it again a couple years later. Then they were back to Tuesday, and then they went to Tuesday nights. And then they tried it again, and then they were back to Thursday nights, and now they're trying it again. And yeah, this time maybe it's going to work a little better because it's a national show.
Yeah, that's why it's so odd that TNT was like basically begging EW for that third hour, and they put it in such a weird spot.
Right. I mean, I still watch it, but I watch it Saturday morning, not Friday night.
Well, I watch it too, but I don't know. But I don't have little kids at home. I never have been a partier. But even if I was at 46, I wouldn't be going out partying and shit.
I'm not partying either, but
so I'm home most of the time to watch it.
Right. Yeah, I'm not out there partying either, but I'd rather have a bonfire on a Friday night when I can, as opposed to sitting in my living room watching TV. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's just.
You know what made me want to party this week, though, Joe?
What's that?
You know what made me want to party this week?
What's that?
Hangman Page returning on Dynamite.
The one thing that can change anybody's mood from bad to good. A Hangman sighting.
Yeah, so fun,
and all
so
these
great.
People,
So and I texted you like, yes, but it wasn't. It was even about him. That was 10 minutes before he actually won the damn. That was him just returning as the Joker. I was excited to see.
Right, which we knew was going to happen, or at least we're hoping was going to happen. I just love the fact that all these people that said his push is now over because Cole and Danielson and Punk are there. Oh, his push is dead. He's dead. It's not good. The one thing I have faith in is Tony Khan's creative, and there was no way he was going to let a 2+ year storyline just be dropped because he signed CM Punk.
Right.
It just wasn't going to happen. And even if Page, the journey is more about Page winning the belt, finally proclaiming the prophecy that he laid out on that first ever press conference, finally coming to terms, getting over that hump, beating Kenny, winning the title. That's where his story ends. He can have a 1-month title reign. He's going to have plenty of title reigns, but the story is in that initial championship win.
Right, and people were like, "Well, no, now that they've done it, now that they got Danielson, they're gonna be booking 6 weeks out for Danielson versus Omega for the World Championship at Full Gear." I always believed it was gonna be Hangman,
right,
and Page at Full Gear, and then you're gonna do and then you'll do Danielson and Cole at Full Gear. Why would you not do that? Right? I mean, that's what they're building towards, I believe, and I think this World Title Eliminator is a way to do that. Right? So the final. I would be very surprised if the finals of that tournament are not Adam Cole versus Bryan Danielson.
Right. And then Danielson wins the belt against Page at the next show, or 2 weeks later at whatever special show that they do.
Oh no, man, that's not where the chase is, right? The chase is, and the story is not Danielson versus Page. The story is Cole versus Page. Two former Elite guys. He's the first guy that. He's Page is the first guy that he went looking that Cole went looking for on PTE when he got resurrected and saw all his other friends around.
Right.
And that way it also Danielson more of a chase, right? So Danielson versus Cole in the world title eliminator main event. The Elite interfere and cost Danielson the match, and then Cole is the first challenger for Page, as I think where the story is.
You know what? I guess I get that too, because right now the story is how Danielson's going through all the members of the Elite to get back to that world title shot.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily need to be against Kenny. It could be against Adam.
Yep. Could be against Adam. Could be against Cole. It doesn't really matter, right?
Right.
So I mean, I think they're really putting together pieces for a long-term story. Eventually the end game, for everything they're doing right now should be, maybe Double or Nothing 2023 or something. Punk versus Danielson for the world championship. To have that big time moment, but it doesn't have to be next year, right?
No. No.
So I mean, they need to put all those puzzle pieces in place to eventually get there.
I think that like I said, I think it doesn't matter how long Adam Page wins or holds the title. The story is in his win, and once he gets that win, he is a main eventer going forward.
He's a made man. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a main eventer now, but once he completes this story, wins a title, beats Kenny for it, he is now a made man and will always be one of the pillars.
Exactly. Whoever beats Kenny for that championship is a made man, and the story has been Page's to be the guy.
And even if let's say he were to lose it at what's the next big thing, the winter show that they do, can't remember what it was called, the one where Sting debuted last year.
Winter is coming.
Yeah, even if say he loses it to MJF at that show, he's still made to the point where he will be a multiple time AEW world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. I mean, and he's also the first guy to win 2 different casino type matches. He won the Casino Battle Royal, the very first one, and now he's won the Casino Ladder match.
Will he be the first person to hold 2 titles, different titles too? No, Kenny, I guess Kenny is.
Yeah, Kenny did. That's right.
Yeah, because I should have thought of that. Kenny was his partner. But and then other than that, I don't have much more to talk about. Another great show by Dynamite or AEW, 2 great shows, both Dynamite and Rampage. GCW is just on fire. I can't wait to watch their show tonight.
Yeah, tonight's show, guys. I mean, I mentioned Brian Luke, and that Jeff and I have already seen, but the card for tonight's show, as Jeff and I are talking, is Alley Catch versus Mercedes Martinez, which is fucking huge. Another big star coming in, Mercedes Martinez. Alex Colon versus Jimmy Lloyd. Dante Leon versus Tony Deppen. Alex Zane versus Starboy Charlie. And then the main event is Joey Janela versus Minoru Suzuki. So I mean, we're talking about an absolutely outstanding show on the Aftermath show as well. So
right.
And then they've got another one coming up in 2 weeks on October 23rd from, I think it's from Vegas or LA. One of the two.
Isn't that Gresham again on that one?
Well, that one's got Suzuki versus Gage.
Oh yeah, okay, and their death match.
And their death match, yep.
Which the last thing I would ever want to do is fight Minoru Suzuki in a death match. Unfortunately,
very, very
I can't see Gage losing 2 death matches in a row though. But he's definitely going to earn that victory if he wins.
Right.
But
yeah,
no,
but you were right about John Gresham's on that show too against Alex Zane.
Okay, that's right. I knew he was on there against somebody. But I don't know. I don't have anything else. Like I said, GCW is on all cylinders. You've got AEW, who's still pumping out great stuff. They're firing on all cylinders. Like the fact that Ring of Honor is starting to get involved in this Forbidden Door stuff. Zack Sabre had a devastating loss, but now is looking to run the table in the Japan Cup or G1. I
We
don't
have one
even
more
know
thing
what
to talk about.
What's that?
We have one more thing to talk about.
Got Christian against Josh Alexander. Impact.
I didn't know that was coming up.
Yeah, that's the latest. Is because Josh Alexander's been he gave up the title. He did the what was it? Clause C or whatever. Option C with the title.
Option C. Yeah.
Yeah, gave it up to face Cage for the heavyweight title.
Awesome. So is that happening in Bound for Glory then?
I believe so. I haven't looked too much into it. I just saw it on my Twitter today.
Okay. Yeah, I have not really been following Impact. I haven't had the time. But no, the other thing we have to talk about is how fucking awesome Jacob Fatu is.
Oh yeah, that Hammer. With everything going on, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So Fightland, MLW's Fightland big event happened on Vice TV this week, guys, on Thursday night. So I'm sure it's available on Vice TV on demand if you didn't catch it.
It's
And
also on Hulu.
yep, it's on Hulu as well.
Just search Fightland and it comes up.
So the big event there was, well, first of all, there was a 4-way match for the middleweight championship, and we have Tajiri as your brand new MLW middleweight champion. And what I want to talk about that match was, first of all, it was really fun 4-way, but also how well they protected Myron Reed in that match. You know, yep. I mean, Myron Reed did, even though he lost the championship, it was in a 4-way. It was in a 4-way where he got caught he got caught in a Boston Crab on the top rope, and then with Tajiri kicking him in the gut, and then he got sprayed in the face with mist, and then kicked in the head by Tajiri to lose the championship. So I mean, it wasn't like it was a one-on-one encounter where he lost clean. You know, it was a 4-way match where he lost very, very dirty. So I mean, I really liked how they protected one of their up-and-coming stars in that manner. And it does make sense, even though Tajiri is old, right? He's probably in his 50s. It made a lot of sense though to put one of their titles on, you know, a nationally recognized star, and even an internationally recognized star, because he's not only a performer for All Japan Pro Wrestling, he's also their head booker right now.
Right. And then we had one of the, after that great match, then we had one of the most awkward segments I've ever seen in my life.
Was it clear to you that Dave Meltzer was not talking to them live?
No, it was 100% obvious that they asked him some questions. He recorded the answers and sent it back to them. He was not part of that conversation at all. He couldn't
even fucking be bothered to. You know, he's given a platform on national cable TV, and he can't even fucking be bothered to show up.
I mean, they promoted him for weeks and weeks and weeks, and no, he can't even show up. He just pre-recorded his answers and sent them in.
Yeah.
And it was obvious because, you know, there was an actual conversation with the 4 people there. And then she'd ask another question. Dave would have one line and then we wouldn't hear from him again while the other 3 are bantering back and forth.
Yeah. And I mean, that clearly wasn't live either, but I mean, they were just talking to each other. And it was ended so badly. Like there was like spot where like Dave had barely finished talking to him, and like less than a millisecond later, the other dude starts talking.
Yeah, it was rough. That was one of the. Oh, that was rough. And then of course the main event, which I had issues with the way it ended.
It was actually it was absolutely a dynamite match for sure. I mean,
right.
I don't mean that. I did not mean that as a pun. It really was though a great match between the 2 of them.
It was fantastic, but my issues were the finish, like the absolute finish. Like, why not pull out the Nightmare Pendulum? That's your move. That's your big move. And he did what, a cutter?
He did TKO'd it.
Yeah, to beat Jacob Fatu, which to me that was like really a letdown. Because I never felt I didn't feel like Fatu was at the point yet where a simple cutter could have beat him.
I think the reason not to use the Nightmare Pendulum is, remember what happened to Savio Vega?
True. Yeah.
And Fatu's like a little bit right around this. You know, I think Savio was 275 at the time, and Fatu's billed at 280. So I think, you know, I mean, yes, probably Fatu could get a little bit more spring to be able to execute it, but why take the chance, right?
Yeah, fair
Um,
point.
my problem with it was you've got this guy who legitimately has beaten every challenger in front of him for 2 years.
Right.
Other than Tom Lawler, he beat him all, and he's beat them all with, and even with Tom Lawler, he's beaten them with just a regular best moonsault ever from the top rope and pinned him.
Right.
Instead, here you've got Hammer gets hit with a spike to the throat, and not only does he hit with the BME, but he gets hit with it through a table, and then he kicks out after being like dead. So I mean, like the whole Hulk Hogan thing, and if he just kicked out of a regular one, I'd be fine, right? But the problem was, first he got hit with the spike through the throat, then he got hit with it through the table. And if you want to do that to build up Hammer as being like this big time, Superman-ish superstar, I get it, and I have no problem with that. The problem comes down the line with, and we talked about this with Raquel Gonzalez in NXT too, right? Where they made her look at this unstoppable force. She gets hit with a couple of moonsaults by Io Shirai, and she kicks out and eventually wins the match. The problem is when you do something like that, I don't have a problem with taking away the credibility of Jacob Fatu because I don't think it does. Fatu was a champion for 2 years. There's very little you could do to take his credibility away. The problem is a challenger in the future for Hammer. So I mean, what are we supposed to believe is going to beat Hammer? That it can't be Fatu through a table after a spike to the throat doesn't do it. I mean, it's going to take getting his head cut off. I mean, what's it going to take? And the thing is that these promoters, when they do stuff like this, they expect fans to forget that kind of shit. We don't. Guys like you and I don't forget that. We remember the shit that happens. So
you're forgetting one very important point, though.
What's that?
Hammer has been an unstoppable force for 2+ years, just right alongside Fatu. They're both undefeated with their championships. They both have been unstoppable for 2 years. It was a heavyweight fight between the two most unstoppable people on the planet.
No, like I didn't forget that. Like I'm saying, like I said, in the moment, it's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with Hammer beating him that way. The problem is going to come down the line for the follow-up. Like, is just making sure that you're consistent and making sure something equally as devastating, equally, something more devastating than what Fatu did is what beats Hammer down the line, right? Because like miss to the face and a kick to the head is not going to be enough to beat Hammer.
But maybe something like what Sammy did against Miro, who was kind of the equal thing, with hitting basically 3 finishers to beat him.
Fair enough.
And that's the way they did it with Miro, because Miro was that same thing, unstoppable, who was going to beat him. And then Sammy just hit 3 finishers to beat him.
Yeah, and with Osprey coming in, maybe Osprey hits, the Oz Cutter, which Cloud Cutter is a much better name for him. But anyway, it's the Oz Cutter, and then he hits the Hidden Blade, and then he hits the the Stormbreaker. I mean, maybe something like that would work. But I just worry about the follow when you put a guy over that huge, Yeah. And I don't know why you had to the table that was the case. But I did like the fact that they did a no DQ match, and there was very little that was involved in the use of weapons. I mean, it was like one chair, the table at the end, and then the spike to the floor. I mean, that for the most part, even though it was a no DQ match, it was pretty clean.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you might like the Cloud Cutter better, but I still side with the Diamond Cutter.
No, I'm saying I think the Cloud Cutter is better than the Oz Cutter.
As far as names, yeah.
As far as names, yes.
Diamond Cutter is still the best.
Sure. I'm surprised you didn't like the RKO.
Because it's the Diamond Cutter.
Okay.
It's not the RKO, it's the Diamond Cutter.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
and
I
and
can
and,
see.
and all you new school fans remember before it was the RKO out of nowhere, it was the Diamond Cutter out of nowhere, out of any position possible.
And the best one ever was delivered by La Parca
Yes, it was.
on Randy Savage. Still the best one out of nowhere ever. But all right, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've got Peacock, I believe it's 1998. It's an episode of Nitro where La Parca is facing off against Randy Savage. Go watch it. It'll be a very enjoyable 5 minutes.
Who would have thought that 23 years after that match, LA Park would still be a champion
A champion.
in a
Right.
U.S. promotion? Yeah,
Yeah, well, and his son along with him.
exactly.
As long as I don't ever have to see him do a cooking segment again, I'll be very fine with that.
We forgot about that.
The MLW cooking segment that he did where he was making chorizo and eggs.
Yeah, he never needs to do that again. I agree.
Never again. I don't ever want to see that again.
Now I think we probably have to this week, but I wanted to make sure we got the Fight One stuff in. So
Yeah, I was so excited about GCW, I totally forgot about that. So one thing too is you messaged me on last night and you said Fight Club is on. And the first thing I thought about is, damn, I haven't seen that movie in forever. What channel?
I got it. I guess I should have been more specific.
Because I knew that GCW was on, but I guess I didn't put two and two together when I heard that.
Yeah, I do think it's cool that on Fight TV we can watch the same broadcast at the same time.
Yeah, I didn't think we could. That's why I started late. If I'd known that, and then I just all of a sudden was sitting there going, I'm going to try it and see if it works, and it let me do it. So
yeah, I think it's up to three devices you can watch on at one time on one account.
I know Ring of Honor we can't. That's the one thing I do know.
Yeah,
because once one device logs in, the other one logs out. But all right, well, that's all I've got, guys. If at any moment during all this you liked anything, just hit the like button, subscribe button, ring notification bell, all that jazz.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Until next time, this is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.